Pull on up a chair. You're at Camp Video Games, y'all.
Hello there, and welcome to Camp Video Games. This is a podcast that discusses video games and their multimedia adaptations. We're talking The Last of Us. This is the fourth part in an ongoing discussion. My name's Junior Camp Counselor Sean, and that fella right there is Junior Camp Counselor Josh.
Hey, what's up, campers? This is Junior Camp Counselor Josh. You've got, if you're gonna go out, if you're going to take your bow out and you're going to hunt deer, you can't just leave them in the woods. There's rotting deer carcasses everywhere. You got to dress that thing. You shot it, you butcher it, you pack it, you freeze it, you eat it, okay? This is your responsibility. We can't just leave rotting deer carcass all over the woods.
It's good meat.
Yep. That being said, welcome to the wintertime in The Last of Us. We just finished off there last week in our discussion of the game.
That's right. And so previously on The Last of Us, Joel
ate shit.
Yeah, he got impaled by some piece of metal, and he's on the mend. And Ellie is now she's the dad.
Yeah. So yeah, we at the end of the last episode we talked about she's out hunting a deer, and I had a lot of trouble with this part, tracking the deer, and it just took way too long. I was a little annoyed, but I said I wished the game had ended there.
Oh, that would have been an amazing decision.
Yes.
Where it just takes the breath right out of you. You go, oh, okie dokie.
We'll be honest, I've got almost nothing but hate for the rest of this game.
I'm filled with love, and I'm here to balance out this energy.
At least story-wise. Mechanically, it continues to impress. But beyond that, I hate almost everything about this world and its characters.
Good. It's not a game built on like goodwill toward men or be kind. Like, this is a game that really kind of doubles down on like you gotta kill to survive, and maybe you might find someone worth killing for. And it's from 2013. We're a dozen years past it, and everything's better now, right? And people
fine.
Don't think this way. They don't let this type of
we haven't aggressively accelerated more and more towards this way of thinking. No, That's definitely not the case. We live in a utopia now.
Yeah, no, everything's fine.
None of that is downstream from culture like this existing.
Are we being sarcastic right now?
I don't know. Let's talk about what happens next. God.
Okay, so Ellie is a pretty good hunter. It starts off, she kills a rabbit. She shoots a rabbit with an arrow, and then she's like, "Oh, there's an even bigger animal. It's a nice 10-point buck." I assume it's 10 points.
What is the point system?
The tines of the antlers, the amount of tines.
Oh yeah, I knew that. But
so if there's 5 on each side, it's a 10-point buck.
Yeah. Okay.
I have hunted deer for the last few years, and I've never killed a buck.
Which is why I was asking.
The bucks are a lot more. They're a lot. What's the word I'm looking for? Reclusive. They don't take as many risks as does do. They tend to like stay farther deeper in the woods.
That's right. The man's supposed to be at home waiting for his bitch ass wife to bring him a goddamn beer. Am I right, fellas?
No. But Ellie, I mean, Ellie is she's walking through the snow in some Chuck Taylors. I've lived that life where you're wearing the wrong shoes for the weather.
Yeah,
but
more because I was a college-aged idiot than because I was struggling or starving.
Oh, for sure, same. But we might have mentioned this last episode. When I was playing through this part of the game, something went wrong. And the deer, after I shot it the first time, it started walking very, very slowly enough that I could just walk up beside it and keep shooting it. and I shot the deer like 20 times. So it's one of those like, yes, if you shoot the deer, it's going to die at the same spot every time. It's not a matter of, did I get the right shot? Did I do it wrong? Because, you know, obviously the best shot for a deer is in the heart, right behind the front shoulder. But more commonly, if you shoot for that area, you'll hit the lungs, which is also a kill shot because, you know, you
got to use those to breathe.
Yeah, I love breathing.
Yeah. We almost should have kept like a bug count. Because
both
of us has talked about a few we've encountered along the way, and we were playing different versions. You're playing the PS4 remaster.
That's right.
You're playing a box version, so it's like no patches or anything on that, I assume.
I don't
unless
like
it downloads after you.
Yeah, there are updates that download after the fact.
I'm playing the remake version, PS5 remake.
Yeah.
Which is very, very nice.
It looks great.
Yeah, it looks very good. I didn't realize how good it looked until I went back and was revisiting what the original looked like.
2013, baby. Yeah. So, Ellie, pretty good with the bow. She gets this deer, and then this part of the game, there's a couple of segments where you're forced to like track somebody. The first instance is when that I can recall is when Ellie runs off on the horse, and Joel and Tommy are looking for her, and you can find the horse tracks in the dirt and the grass and stuff, and like you're doing that again, except now after you've shot the deer, you're blood tracking, which, you know, after the arrow goes into the deer, the blood comes out and you follow the blood tracking. It's exactly what it sounds like. Mm-hmm. Ellie finds the deer, and she's approached by two men, and Ellie is like such a tough like cookie. Like immediately she's just like, if you move, I'll fucking kill you. Like I will kill you and I'll kill your friend.
She's been taught to be afraid. She's
been taught to trust no one. And I mean, in this circumstances, like just a 14-year-old girl out in the woods, and then two guys are like, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" It's in any world, that's like red flags. So the deal there's two guys, David and James. David's in charge, and David strikes up a deal with Ellie where if you give us the deer, we'll give you some antibiotics. This is all being negotiated with a arrow pointing at his skull. But he's very calm and collected, and he's trying his best to earn Ellie's trust. David is.
Two quick notes before we keep laying out what's happening here. One, David is voiced by the guy who does Nathan Drake. They thought they were so clever, disguising his voice in this guy. I don't know. They made a big deal about it in the Naughty Dog making of documentary.
Okay. I mean, that's from Uncharted, right?
Yeah, he's the pro tag of Uncharted. I had a lot of misunderstandings of motivations of these people.
Okay.
That I have my theories, and if they're right, I hate them. Yeah. So if you could fill in blanks for me as we go.
Sure. I just finished my third playthrough of this game.
Yeah.
I played through on hard difficulty again, and I still stick by what I said the first episode. Just stick with normal.
Yeah. So I've also I played through it. I rewatched my playthrough of all the story moments. I'm now rewatching it as we record. And like, first and foremost, I don't understand why David specifically, as we're about to find out, he knows his men were the people who came and attacked Joel and Ellie in the facility where Joel got injured.
Yes, the St. Mary's Hospital, I believe, or no, the Southern Colorado University.
Yeah. And he knows it was a man and a little girl. And for some reason, he's trying to keep her alive when all of his men are like, let's just fucking kill her.
Yeah.
I don't understand that motivation. Again, I have my theory based on things that are going to happen an hour or so down the line.
Yeah.
If there's something I'm missing out the gate here, fill me in.
Well, let's break down David. I mean, David's he's the closest thing this game has to a villain.
Yeah.
Like an outright villain. You could argue that Marlene is a villain. You could argue that Joel is a villain. You could argue that in fact it was humanity is the villain of the story.
It always is. Everybody but Ellie is a villain in my book.
So what happens is that David sends James off to get antibiotics, and he and Ellie will wait with the deer. And while they're waiting, they get attacked by a bunch of infected, and you've got a fun little, tower defense segment.
Yeah, you got to really blast these guys through the windows as they're coming at you.
Ellie takes David's rifle, and David has a revolver. So you're both shooting at zombies, and in my playthrough experience, David is completely useless, and he barely helps you besides giving you extra bullets every once in a while.
But the idea here from the developers is make you question, like, wait, should I trust this guy who seems...
He seems very chill, and like he's got a calm demeanor. He doesn't have like a shifty look to him. Everything about him is saying, no, I can let my guard down with this guy.
It's like I feel they at this point with the information we have about David, I feel like I'm being sort of told by the developers, the narrative tone, this guy's being nice, but you should know not to trust nice people.
Yeah. Hashtag nice
like
guys.
All I know right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God dang it.
It's just doubling down on the us versus them mentality that The Last of Us really relies on for a lot of its tension.
Yeah, I just needed one person in this game who's just nice and you can trust them, and it would have done a lot for me.
Yeah, for sure. But this is not Dragon Quest 11. This is not the feel good time adventure hour. This is the world's gone to shit, and only the strong survive.
Yeah,
so
nobody does culture like the West.
So in this case, you and David are holding your own against a pretty hefty amount of clickers and infected, and like teamwork wise, like you usually can trust the people that have your back in this type of situation. And you're for all intents and purposes right now, we know that like we've already said that I think David is the villain of the game.
Yeah. So
spoiler alerts. But okay, so bunch of fighting. I do love the combat in this game. I think that the survival aspect is very fun. And so this is
the variants of how sort of like, I don't know, I keep calling them like fighting arenas. Are set up. You have sometimes it's like you describe this as like tower defense. Sometimes it's Call of Duty, like shoot the wave and move forward. Sometimes it's sneaking. It stays variable enough that it's like the gameplay is always a good time. Like when I'm on stream playing this, I'm laughing and having a good time, in spite of how much I hate the story.
Yeah. So after they fight off zombies for like an hour, Ellie and David, they go back to the deer, and they're just sharing a fire, having a laugh. No, not really laughing, but they're just kind of like, well, that was intense. And killing all those zombies.
I will note, as I did just praise this section, I died a lot because there's a lot of moments where they set up like, okay, now you're in this room and there's going to be another wave of zombies you defend yourself from, and like you have to learn where they're going to come in from when, and they just blast your ass a few times before you figure it out.
For sure.
It got a little frustrating.
It only gets harder. The difficulty, like scaling, like hard mode on this is like if you miss a shot, like you might want to restart. Mm-hmm. It's very, very demanding. But
I imagine
the fight with all these zombies is like punctuated at the end with a bloater, which is like the tank of the zombies, which is very cool. I love the bloaters. I think that as an enemy type, I love the challenge they pose. But okay, so Ellie and David, they're sitting, they're chilling by their deer, waiting for James to come back with the penicillin that Ellie needs to give to Joel, who is going to die without it. It's amazing that he hasn't died already. Blah blah blah. Not very believable, but sure. Here's what's happening. Also, zombies have mushrooms coming out of their heads. So where am I really gonna cut off the disbelief here? But in a very cool, calm, and collected manner, David starts talking about fate, and there's no such thing as luck. Everything happens for a reason. And then he reveals, he's like, yeah, my community. He like refers to like this like what we would call like as like a gang or
A
as
feral
like,
gang of
yeah.
boys.
He just I mean he's like we got men, women, children like
Which he said that at the beginning, and then we're gonna spend the next hour fighting through his crew, and it's just feral men.
well that's who the game doesn't give you. I'm using my words very carefully here.
Yeah.
The game doesn't give you an opportunity to kill children,
Which is good.
which is
Don't get me
good.
wrong, because it goes a little too far coming up in some situations
Yeah.
for me. But anyway,
but you know they're just putting people that you can kill in
Yeah.
front of you. So David reveals that like the people that attacked Ellie and Joel at the university, those were his people. He's like, yeah, a bunch of my men got killed by some crazy man and a little girl. And you would think that like they've got the drop on Ellie. Like James like comes up,
Yeah,
he's got
I
a gun
don't-
drawn on her, and
just kill her.
yeah, exactly. But as we see a little bit later, David has more interest in something else.
Which, okay, so at this point, I am thinking somehow they know who she is.
they do. They've clearly deduced that this
No, I
little
mean like they know
Spitfire-
that she's immune.
Oh, they don't. They do not know.
I know that now, but like as playing it, I'm like, that's the only reason I can think of that they would keep her alive. It's
No,
like
no.
somehow word has spread that this girl's coming through, and like,
No. Ellie's immunity
No,
is still a guarded secret at this point.
right? I know that now, but like playing it, I just can't understand why they didn't just gun her down.
Because okay, well here's why. And it's pretty clearly demonstrated later is that David's a pedophile. He's not only a cannibal, he's also a pedophile.
Okay, which is what I came to, and I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be in a video game. I'm
I mean,
sorry.
There's
I'm not trying to censor anybody.
yeah.
But like, it's just like, I get it. The world's mean.
Yeah.
And like, you have to.
This
Like,
guy's the
taking it
worst
one
of the
degree
worst.
further. It's just like, I don't need that. I got the point that the
Yeah.
world's fucking mean, and it just is not fun.
I agree with you. It's not fun that he's a pedophile. I'm not having a fun time. I'm not giggling. I'm not having a good time with that.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, it's making your game. From my perspective, it's making your game worse.
See, as a writer, I understand that they are just trying to make a villainous villain that is like no redeeming qualities to this guy. He's just the worst. But his soft-spoken demeanor, that's where it's like the wolf in sheep's clothing, where it like it's you know just because he's portraying an evil thing that's real doesn't mean that he is real. This is a pretend predator.
Yeah,
But
I just don't think it's fun to play pretend with that.
yeah, that is completely valid.
Yeah.
And David lets her go, and he lets her go with the medicine because he intends to follow her later, and she'll take him back to Joel. They know that they've had trouble with some guy and a girl. We found the girl. If we kill the girl, we might never find the guy. But if we let her go, she goes, she leaves them the deer, takes the penicillin, and rides Callus the horse back to Joel, who is he's bedridden in the basement on a
Which at this
dingy old
point,
mattress.
I'm just screaming at the screen right now. That's like, no, he would be so dead.
yeah.
Like all sorts of sepsis, infection.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna find out in the DLC. She went and found a little busted ass kit to stitch him up with. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's dead.
I agree. I
And then-
completely agree.
At this point, she gives him the penicillin, and is it immediately in the scene? But the guys, the next sort of beat that happens is they find them. Ellie tries to divert their attention away so they can't find Joel.
Yeah, she goes on a wild chase with the horse. She and the horse are running at full speed, trying to get the guys to stop going toward the house that Joel's in. She's diverting them away from Joel, further protecting him in his vulnerable state.
Yeah.
And the horse gets killed. It's a bummer. Probably the worst thing that happened in this story so far. And Ellie is then on her own, and it's a fun little combat stealth segment where you're going through. It's like a lakeside. What's the word I'm looking for?
like a resort.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
where they're it's just a really I would visit this place in real life. Like it seems like a great, nice little lake resort. Who doesn't love good day at the lake?
That looks too cold for me.
It's winter.
Yeah. And we're supposed to be probably in Colorado mountain.
Yeah. We're in
resort
Colorado
area.
for sure. So Ellie gets kidnapped at the end. She gets captured by David. David is doing his best to keep her safe from his men because all of the men that David is leading, they're like, we should kill this bitch. And David is like, no, we got to keep her safe. We got to protect her. Like, she might join us at some point because he just wants a little girlfriend out of Ellie.
Hate it.
Yeah. And so Ellie, she gets knocked out and she wakes up in a cage watching James dismember a dead body on a butcher's
just
block.
to really make sure we drive the point home that these guys are freaks.
Yeah. Now,
like, not only are they cannibals, but let's do it in front of the girl we captured that we hope to turn into our sex slave.
Yeah.
Like,
we're not rooting for these guys.
I know I'm not, but like,
this is just an unfortunate effect of our culture where in order to show you how bad the guys are, they really just need to be the absolute worst.
I don't.
Yeah, it's not great.
Like,
not a fan.
I'm saying, like, as a product, it is bad. Like, in my opinion, I don't know. It's because it's like I don't feel like I'm not saying make anything art. I'm not censoring anybody, but like, other than like what you keep saying of like, no, they're just bad people. I'm like, there's so many lines that like you don't need to cross, and I'll go, yes, those are bad people.
It's a ham-fisted attempt at characterization.
Yeah, it brings me back to like, to me, it doesn't come off as like, wow, it's dark, but it's art. It's just edgelordy. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't,
I agree with you.
I don't think it needed to happen. Like a lot of these details, like even like the cannibal stuff, I'm like, yeah, whatever. They're weird cannibals. That's fine. But when you push it to sexualizing this child that like you've for the last 10 hours forced me to develop an emotional relationship with, I'm just like, dude, you're just being an edgelord. This isn't art. Like,
sure,
it's not doing it for me.
So David is like, he's attempting right now to just like convince Ellie, like, hey, we'll let you live if you just, do everything we say. And unfortunately, this is the plight of real children in the world to some degree.
Yeah.
And like, it's just,
not
when you
anybody playing this video game.
Probably not.
I'd say at least 99% of people playing this video game. And I feel it's like, this is a bigger problem for me, is like how much our culture obsesses with like, oh, your child, your daughter, this is going to happen to her. That's going to happen to her. And like, I think that creates some of the tension and anxiety in our culture. Like,
oh, sure,
politics is downstream from culture, as Andrew Breitbart said. Is like, there's truth to that. And like, I'm really grilling this game, but like, turn on, anything
news.
on cable news.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking fiction. Like, I've seen almost every episode of Law and Order SVU, and like that, it's just campy enough that I'm like, but it is just this propaganda, like, be afraid of everybody. Everybody's trying to take your daughter. Fucking kill them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if we made some art that wasn't that? What might the world be like?
Yeah.
Dragon Quest. It's a nice game.
I saw a truck yesterday, big, Ford F-250 that's like pristine, and like this guy's never done any work with this truck before, but he had an Umbrella Corporation sticker on it
because he's just waiting. Yeah, he's been propagandized.
And I see, and if you don't know, that's the evil corporation from Resident Evil. And go back to our series on Resident Evil, we got a great multi-part discussion on a couple of those things. But I was about to like honk and wave because shout out Resident Evil nerd.
Yeah.
But then he's got that fucking thin blue line,
like a Punisher sticker. Maybe
it's the American flag with a blue
stripe
where it should be a white stripe. And like, I'm not like one of those like don't disrespect the flag, but like that is literally flag desecration. What they're doing.
I'm more of a don't respect cops person. That's my
yeah. But you know what I mean? Like
Bootlicker.
the hypocrisy of these like Trump flags or
Yeah.
these thin blue line flags where it's like they're literally like defacing the American flag. It's just like
Yeah.
a little taste of their own medicine, maybe.
There's what was I gonna say about this? It's never mind. It'll come back to me because there's more of this to come in what's left of this game. But we had that. Ellie and David are talking, and that's where we're learning kind of what his intentions are.
Oh, so David puts his hand like out to like hold Ellie's hand, and he's like, maybe we could figure something. I forget the specific wording, but it's obvious that he's got less than noble intentions for Ellie. And in response, Ellie just breaks his finger and tries to steal the keys to get out because she's a fighter. She's only trying to survive. Like that's the world that she's born into, and that's the mentality that's kept her alive this long. And it doesn't work.
Empowered female character. I tell you what.
Oh,
no, like, and especially because it's coming up. But I had to watch her violently be murdered several times because I wasn't very good at the game.
Some people would
Didn't
say
like
you
that
get
either.
to see her get violently murdered. But
there's some weird psychosexual problems wrapped up in this.
There's a lot. But so Ellie is trapped in dire circumstances right now. She's like one broken finger away from being the next body on that chopping block. And like magic, that penicillin just fucking boom. Joel is fine. so fine.
I do like trying to find nice things here. I like the way this act is broken up bouncing between Ellie's perspective and Joel's to like keep the pace and the tension moving. Because I will say, like, the game's very well paced. But in my playthrough, I mean, I was like 2 hours in this night playing it, but like Joel wakes up and I'm just like, no, come on, man.
Yeah,
no.
He's going to be
like,
crippled for the rest of his life.
And not only is like he awake, but he stumbles a little bit getting up. He realizes Ellie's gone and starts wandering outside. And like after 20 paces or so, you have full control of him again and his full inventory, and he's moving just fine. And I was just like,
zero effect.
No, like this doesn't work. I talked about this in previous episodes, like how the mash between we want it to feel as gritty and real to what this would be like as possible, but then like this magical realism of video game logic really clashes for me at times. And I just put the controller down. I was like, I got to come back to this another time. This is stupid.
It's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That like Joel's like, like after he like leaves the basement, he's just fine.
Yeah.
Because one of the strongest parts of the game I felt was right after Joel was impaled and you still have control over him and your sight is blacking out. Everything is wavy. I thought that was so good. I thought that was a really, really clever way to show, hey, your character is on the brink of death right now.
And this is just like showing how easily he comes back from it.
He just bounces
kind
back.
of spoiling the way I described it is like, that's the one time sort of the prestige of the magic trick of this game worked on me. That I was like leaning in, I'm quiet, I'm emotionally invested. The rest of the game I've just been like, fuck this. For whatever reason, this did remind me of like what I was thinking about earlier is this idea of like mean, every piece of media, especially like survivalist zombie media, is like, they're gonna take your women and rape them. You know, like I feel like that's more of like a post 9/11 thing, because we've talked a lot about like George Romero's work and talking about this in Resident Evil. And he is like tackling like societal issues from a progressive view in a very metaphorical way.
Oh yeah.
Like
Romero is not talking about zombies. He's talking about like the human condition.
And like we talk about Paul Verhoeven a lot on the show, James Cameron, like that's a very different tone than what we see in like this, The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, and then like for more like mainstream stuff, again, like Law and Order. I haven't watched any of these like Taylor Sheridan shows that are all the rage right now.
I don't know who that is.
He makes Yellowstone.
Oh, I see so many clips of Yellowstone on it, like
and that's
YouTube
like
shorts.
all the rage for like conservative TV now. And like that's what mainstream TV is. Like we've gone fully that direction. And I don't know, there's just something about it. Like I can see sort of a needle shift, and like 9/11 being a bit of the catalyst towards the other direction of no, the world is mean and you have to protect your own is like what the media messages of a lot of these post-apocalyptic or what's another sort of world, like dystopian worlds are about.
I'm reminded of the Road Warrior in like it's I mean, which is, you know, started so many of the post-apocalyptic tropes that have become, you know, standard fare for our media consumption these days. And in that, and that's I think the first Mad Max was like in the late 70s, and then Road Warrior is in the 80s. They still show like very brutal sexual assault of like, you know, like, did you see the Road Warrior?
The originals?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
In that one, there's like this, like one of the last like strongholds of quote unquote civilization, or more of like a band of survivors are all huddled at an oil refinery, and they're pumping oil still, and they have like the last lifeline to gasoline. And so of course they're a huge target for motorcycle gangs and all of the raiders and all of that type of stuff. And this one group, you know, this man and woman, they like try to make a break for you know, because they're sick of being assaulted by raiders every day and just having to fight them off. So they try to make an escape, and they crash, and the woman is immediately like brutally R-worded. And it's just
we've
like,
already said it once. My bad.
It's a bummer. Like it's like a super bummer. But like that again is like they are showing you these are very bad people. Don't take them lightly. They are going like they're savage animals. Like they will just brutalize you. And like that's just a easy way to say good guys versus bad guys. Bad guys do this. Good guys don't do that. And I don't know. I think it's always there. It's always there. Like I forget what movie this was, but there was this another. It was like a Western movie where like all these like settlers are like fighting off a big attack from bandits, and a cowboy gives a gun to a woman. He's like, "Don't use this to kill none of them Indians. Use this to kill yourself in case anything goes wrong, so that they won't do that bad thing to you." And it's just like, you know, humans. I mean, most people are garbage. Like, but there are good people. That's the point I'd like to make, is that there are good people that will never do that.
This game goes out of its way to tell you there are not.
Yeah. Well, it's a very pessimistic,
down to the wire.
It's a very pessimistic game.
Yeah.
It was made. I mean, the 2010s sucked. Like everything sucks. I don't know. Fuck life.
That's what I'm saying. I like nice things, man. I'm playing that Yakuza Like a Dragon. Those are absolute lads. I just played. It's like the first third of the game is about. You find out that this sex worker's father is in a nursing home that is like doing euthanasia against people's will.
Hell
and like
yeah.
profiting off of it.
Yeah.
And so you just go and like bust them up and like, I don't know, and you help this sex worker save her dad
That
from
rocks.
euthanasia that he didn't
that's
sign up
sweet.
for. Like, you can make things like edgy and out there without it being like, I don't know. It's just so tonally different. And now, like, another thing I'm wondering about, it's like, I kind of want to revisit Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange.
Ugh.
Because he, most of his career is very satirically critical of power.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah. But I remember that movie having like a pretty graphic RAPE scene. I'll try not to say it more. And the idea is the main character is a bad guy, and then they brainwash him back, but he becomes bad again. It disagrees with the book. I don't know. It's been since high school since I visited that.
I read the book before I saw the movie.
Same.
And I remember the movie more at this point, just because of the graphic imagery. Yeah, let's.
Anyways, moving on.
So
yeah.
Okay, so Joel is on the hunt for Ellie. He knows that she's not there. The horse is gone, and he comes across some of these
just yelling
hunters.
into the void, Ellie,
Yeah.
Ellie. There's a lot of moments where I'm like, when do you decide that you're safe to make a bunch of noise?
I know exactly what you mean, because like everybody's armed, everyone's gunning for you, and like what points are you just like Ellie? Woo! Like yeah. So, but Joel starts chasing these men.
Yeah.
Like they are terrified. Like it's like he became like the Batman to them.
It's Liam Neeson's Taken for the next 30 minutes here.
Yeah,
it
really is.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid. This is a very silly part of the game. So Joel is he's chasing all of these like terrified bad boys. He's like, where is she? Where is she? And
he goes full out dad mode, which like, okay. I've maybe told this story on the podcast, that, this is like going dad mode is a real thing.
Sure.
You know, like, I don't even have my own biological child. It's my partner's child. We're not even married yet, right? And like, we were at the park behind my house, and somebody's pit bull was just unleashed and just ran up on us. And it was like, it was a puppy who wanted to play, but I'm sorry, pit bull energy is just a little much for me. And like, the kid is already a little scared of dogs.
Yeah.
So like, it runs up and it starts like nipping at her. And like, I'm like pulling it off of her, picking her up, and like, I don't know how much further it would have gone.
Right.
And then the owner comes marching up the hill. And in this world, we unfortunately live in a world where you just never know who has a gun.
Yeah, who's packing?
And like, my brain turned off. I just started cussing this guy out. I was like, your dog better get it. It's just like, get the, and like, I'm just screaming at him.
Hell yeah.
Like,
dude, I've never seen that side of you before.
I haven't either.
I'm wet as hell right now, dude.
That's why I'm like, this is real. Like, I actually kind of don't hate like how stupid, again, how like far like Liam Neeson's Taken Joel goes about this.
Sure. Now he's got a reason
point.
to live. He's not that cool, detached, stoic. He is now like, where's my daughter?
Yeah, like this part I'm down with. If you, I don't know, maybe I'll just have to reassess this when we get through it all, because I feel like this is killed at the end by him lying to her.
Oh, no, my friend. Oh, I can't wait to get to that. Let's blast through here.
Okay.
So Joel, he incapacitates two of these hunters and he's torturing them. He's basically saying like, tell me where they took Ellie. Like, tell me where she is. And so one guy is tied to a chair, and Joel, he's like savagely beating these guys. He like stabs this guy in the kneecap, and then he takes the bloody knife out of this guy's body and he puts the handle of the knife in his mouth, and he's like, point on the map where she is. And the blood leaves like it's like ink on this map. And then he just straight up kills the guy. And then he goes to the guy behind him who watches all of this happen. He's like, if you point to a different spot on this map, like, it's over for you.
And then doesn't he just kill him anyway?
Yes. But the guy was like, he told you the truth, man. Like, he's like, I know, I believed him. Then it's like, wow. Like, it's like, you're seeing like, this is post 2013, pre 2030 Joel. This is Joel at his worst. This is him just like, when he was no better than these guys, like, because he lived this lifestyle.
See, and this is the part of the behavior I understand,
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
I understand parent brain in this regard.
Yeah. So he was parent braining.
And I'll say, like, most of my complaints are more for like storytelling decisions.
Yes.
That were made. That I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get there.
So after Joel kills these two guys and gets the location on the map, it goes back to Ellie's perspective. And she is being taken, like, they put her on the chopping block, but right before that happens, she bites David's arm. And David's about to start dismembering her, where she says, I'm infected, and now you're infected. And that gives her just that little fucking moment of like doubt, an opportunity where she's able to grab the knife and kill James with it. David starts shooting, and it turns into another cat and mouse game.
Does she know? Like, is that true? That like if she bites people, they'll get infected?
I mean,
or is she just bluffing?
She's bluffing right now.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, like, and but it's a interesting.
Yeah, it's like an interesting gray space.
That's
to
actually
put his mind into.
That's a question that's kind of commonly Googled. Because I put
about
in
this game
about this game, because Ellie can bite people, kind of like in a defense mode. Like if people grab her, she can bite them.
Mhm.
And that question goes out there where it's like, if she bites somebody, are they infected? I don't know. And I will say this. I've done my best to not bring up the sequel very much, but that kind of fear also bleeds into like any sort of transmission of fluids.
Oh yeah, we're talking about doing the sex.
Sex. Yeah, it's just an interesting little thought exercise. Campers, what do you think? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. So after that, she manages to get away from David, who is now on her tail, and we do a run through of his crew. And what I like about this is just, use of weather, environment, to make it feel more claustrophobic, limited visibility.
For sure.
You've really got to be a little more tenacious in the end game here.
And
about
you're
how you maneuver
unarmed.
the environment.
You're now
you're
now more vulnerable than ever. You've got your knife, so you can still kill people if you sneak up on them pretty easily, but you don't have your like arsenal that you're used to.
Yeah.
And so this is just like
but Ellie is more nimble. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. I do like how Ellie moves like a younger person.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yeah. I don't know if she like actually like her actual movement speed is faster, or if she's just animated in a way that feels more nimble.
Yeah.
But I remember like the section right before this when you're like running across the like beach lakefront of this resort. I was like, oh, she moves.
Yeah, she's 14.
She's very wiry. And, yeah.
She would have been a great soccer player. So the snow is black blazing. No, the snow is coming down.
Snow
real
don't
hard.
be snowing.
Okay, visually, very bothered by the fact that it is like snowing like crazy. Ellie has a hood. She's not wearing it. No hat. This is always happening in movies and TV shows and video games where it's like, no, you got to see the full face. The actor demanded it. It was in their contract.
Yeah, there's a part coming up when you switch back to Joel after he's been running through the snow and he comes inside and he's just like ghostly white with snow. It's so funny.
So this little stealth mission ends up in like a steakhouse, or I don't know, like some nice restaurant. It reminds me of like a Outback Steakhouse. It's on, a really, really nice place.
Yeah, it is very Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Vibes.
So David, he's got Ellie trapped in this restaurant that's caught on fire. All the exits are now inaccessible. So you're trapped in there with him, or is he trapped in there with you?
Well, at first I thought he was trapped in there with me. Then I tried to fight him.
Oh yeah. It's I mean, this is as close to like feeling like Danny from The Shining that I've ever felt in a video game before. I mean, also David kind of looks like Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance.
I'll give them that this is a pretty decent homage. So after the first time you stab him and it's clear like, okay, one stabbing's not going to happen. That was when I went, oh, this is one of the few boss fights in the game.
Quote unquote boss fights.
And this is like where I kind of had my complaints of like, the way you have to do this quote unquote boss fight is so different gameplay wise than anything you've done at this point.
Yeah.
That like you have to watch this adult man murder this teenage girl several times to learn it. That I was like, I'm so over it, Neil. Like, just stop showing me gruesome murders of children.
Yeah.
I once I understood it, I thought it was interesting and like the tension building worked, that when I finally finished it, I was just like, oh my God, I haven't breathed in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now
Now this game, you could also like, so, you know, I've played this 3 times now. My third run through, even on difficult mode, I beat this in like 1 minute. You can do it so quickly if you just know.
Sure.
Like this is an interesting part of the stealth aspect of the game is that there's like broken like porcelain on the ground that can be an audio cue, which is a new part of the game that they haven't really fucked with yet.
And they're not super well telegraphed in terms of visuals. I think they probably make noise when you walk over them.
Yeah.
But somebody in my stream chat had to tell me that before I caught on and finally figured this out.
So I really think this is like an A+ part of the game for me, just because I felt the tension. I am 100% rooting for Ellie here, and like that's, I mean, you know, this is a classic underdog fight where like this guy is bigger than you, he's stronger than you, he is also sneaky. He can start hiding behind shit the same way you're doing it. And when you go into listen mode, where you know your sonar, you know, when Ellie goes and all the noise bounces back and she can see everything like Daredevil, he can also become invisible. Like, but when he's sneaking around,
another new thing that you've got to reckon with too, is that he can disappear by being quiet himself.
I mean, the tension. My butt clenched while I'm playing this.
I feel like I would have loved it if we could have just cut her death animation 2 seconds sooner.
You know, I don't need the death animation every time. That's how I feel. Like, because I'm also just like, if once I sense that the death animation is about to start, I just press start and.
You can skip it.
You press start and just do restart and counter.
Oh, okay. I just showing it to me over and over and over again. I'm just like, it's just. I got problems with it.
It's okay.
Does this game start with like a content warning of any kind?
No. It's rated mature, so they don't have to.
I hate to be like a cringe lib about this, but I wouldn't mind if it did.
Okay, Tipper Gore.
I'm not stopping anybody I'm not censoring anybody. I'm just saying, like, I know people in my life that, like, I wouldn't expose them to this, you know?
Sure.
I would want, or if I did, like, I'd want them to know what's coming up, because this could be, we throw around trigger warning a little too loosely in this world, but, like, this whole segment of the game is very warranted.
Yeah. Now, it would be a very different game if it started with this. But we're more than halfway through the game at this point. So you've had some time at least to acclimate to the level of ick that the game has.
This is a new, deeper level. This has to do with violence towards young women, sexual violence towards young women that, like, up to this part of the game, it's just been like, it's just a violent video game. And this is like, whoa, we did a whole new depth.
Yeah. You're right.
And like, I played, have you heard of Doki Doki Literature Club? It's like an indie game from 2 or 3 years ago.
First I was like, wait, Doki Doki Panic, Super Mario Brothers 2. Campers, listen to our series on Mario. I'm sorry, I'm so brained out right now.
It's hard to talk about without spoiling.
Okay.
But
Spoiler alert.
It presents itself as a classic, like, anime bordering on hentai dating sim.
Okay.
Of, like, you're just talking like a what do they call those?
Like girlfriend simulators?
Yeah, like a girlfriend simulator. Dating sim narrative. Animated novel type whatever.
Wow, what the fuck is that called?
We're blanking
Campers, let us know in the comments. We need engagement.
It presents itself as that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
visual novel.
Most people know there is a twist. I won't say exactly what it is, but it gets very dark, very fast. And
this is Doki Doki Literature Club?
Literature Club.
Okay.
Yeah. And it starts with very strong, first thing you see are like content warnings that are like, this game shows suicide.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not spoiling anything by saying
yeah.
Like, and I think it's fine to do that, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. If you preface it with that warning, then do whatever you want.
Like, I feel like this game, for how, like, what proud libs they are about how they made a story about an empowered girl like, put in there that like, but heavily implied sexual violence towards said quote unquote empowered girl happens throughout. Would be worthwhile.
I'm trying to find a delicate way to communicate what I'm trying like in art and in media. Sometimes the only way that a filmmaker, what have you, an author, game maker can show that this woman is empowered is by putting them through the ringer, right? Like
she's been through the ringer in my opinion.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it's I think what it really means is that like if you were to make a game, you would not be making these same decisions that these guys are
absolutely making. Yeah.
So,
and I just again I think the depth they went to is more edgelordy than artistic. In my opinion. No one has to agree with me.
Yeah.
That it's you made your point before we went that far, in my opinion.
So third time is a charm once you can get this the sneak up on David here. So you get him, you stab him 3 times, and then they both get knocked unconscious in the struggle. And then the control goes back to Joel, and Joel is just working his way back. You know, the restaurant in this game is called Todd's. It's probably like Todd's Steakhouse or Todd's, food place.
Todd's food bag.
Welcome to Todd's Food House.
Slurp on up to the trough.
There's this like drive-through that it's called Scooters, and they do like it's like coffee and breakfast stuff mostly. But you go to the drive-through and I'm like, hey, I'll get give me as much coffee as you're allowed to sell me. And they're like, okay, why don't you scoot on up to the window? And that's like, they have to say that every time. It's very charming.
Scoot on up.
Scoot on up.
I do want to address that to what we were just talking about. Like, we do have this moment as Joel's catching up to Ellie of all these humans on meat hooks. That's basically sort of the games would be like, by the way, these guys are cannibals, in case you didn't figure that out yet. Like, this level of violence, based on what we've seen up to now, it's like, I'm fine. I'm just saying, like, the psychosexual stuff, young children side is like, that comes so out of left field. That's where I'm like, whoa. That was a bit much for me.
Sure.
Like the cannibal stuff, I was like, oh yeah, that's gross. These guys are fucked up.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. But it is funny the way they do it. Of like just this little, you walk through a room with Joel, and just like, just make sure you get the point. Here's some bodies on meat hooks.
Yeah, and there's even so I really enjoyed all of the files that you can find throughout this, and then like any survival horror or any game any video game at this point has lore dumps, that are optional that you can just find. Oh, I found a journal diary or whatever. And in this one, you can find a meat ledger that David is keeping.
Is that note with all the pounds that were brought back? Yeah, that's cute.
It's like, that they're not finding, like, they're finding like hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of meat at a time. So they've got what must be a pretty big collection of people, like, that are all living, banding together. And this is the part where I'm like, do they know they're eating human meat?
Yeah, well, it depends on like how many people are in this little tribe. And then the other question it raised for me is like, how do they decide who becomes meat and who becomes part of the tribe? It's like stuff I like would like to see more of. I'm not saying I need it, but I'm like, what's going on here? How does this little tribe society work?
I don't know. I think it's a little flimsy.
It does feel like it's just intended to escalate. They're like, we've shown so much violence.
Yeah.
How can we show another level?
What are other icky things?
How much ickier can we make it so that I think they want us to be on Joel's side at the end. I don't know. I don't know what they want from me.
Throughout, we are on Ellie's side. That is really what's because we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So Joel, he finds that like, oh boy, I sure hope Ellie's not a sandwich. And then he finds Ellie. Okay. So Joel finds the bodies. Focus shifts back to Ellie. Ellie and David are now coming to consciousness after their little scuffle. I mean, David should be dead. He's been stabbed 3 to 4 times.
Yeah, like I didn't understand, like, why is this guy need stabbed so many more times than any other guy?
Because Ellie just like she can just kill everybody.
Even now, I think this is pure cutscene, and then I died because I didn't hit a quick time event. And it showed me one more new, like, and I think this honestly for me was like the line, like, that's too far, where David strangles her to death.
Yeah, that sucks.
Like, I'm just like, I'm sorry. It's just I'm struggling to come up with a better word. It's just like you're just doing this to be an edgelord.
Yeah,
I'm not gaining anything at like an artistic level from you showing me this.
No, it's just this is a bad guy.
And it was just because I missed that there was a triangle on the screen.
That sucks.
Which, again, you keep referring me. Yeah, I know that at this point. You don't need to add more details. But, yeah, I missed the triangle the first time, and he strangles me to death.
I'm watching this now. Is it up on the screen for everybody?
I can put it back.
That's okay.
I've already streamed it once.
I've never seen that.
Roll back.
I've never seen that before.
It's dark,
so that
dude.
Sucks. So Ellie ends up killing David with his own machete. It's great.
Yeah,
I guess. It's actually I feel like it might be a bit of an homage to Friday the 13th Part 4. It's the one with Corey Feldman. At the very end, Corey Feldman is killing Jason Voorhees with his machete in the same exact manner that Ellie is doing to David here. Specifically with a machete, specifically with this like dynamic of the teenager killing the aggressor with his own weapon. Very, very much. I think that is an homage.
I don't know. On this note, as I'm like rewatching it, I'm not trying to say like I'm applying this as like a one size fits all for everybody analysis. Like, if you're like a woman who thinks seeing this is empowering for you in some way, like, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I just like, I don't know. I think I just know enough women that have like bad things have been done to them that like putting it on screen like this, I just don't think it's very helpful for many people. But if that's the way you process, good for you. I'm glad you have it.
Yeah, like, everybody's got a different perspective, and you're only speaking from your own.
I don't know.
And you're a caring person who looks out for women.
I do feel in my heart that that's probably a minority of women.
Yeah,
who would find this like, yeah, I felt empowered by that at the end.
Sure. So Joel finds Ellie as she's just like making ground beef out of David's face with a machete.
Yeah. And that's the part I'm talking about. It's like, I get this.
Yeah, that's
for some
the
people, maybe this is a way to sort of play out a power fantasy of, but it's like, I don't know, it's for women, it's always just like attacking the guy who tried to sexually assault you. And for men, it's like, I just kill every man in front of me and it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, have you seen Deliverance?
No.
Deliverance, it's based on a novel. I can't remember who's in it right now, but it's a story about a group of like city boys going canoeing in like the deep Georgia backwoods on a river, and they end up getting attacked by like some hill people who immediately like butt fuck one of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like so graphic, and it's like it's kind of the reversal where it's like this guy who's like a tough guy is like getting like brutally anally raped, and it's like so like fucked up.
I'll tell you what, this episode's never getting monetized.
Guess what? None of our episodes got monetized.
This one, even if it hits 1 million listens, it ain't.
But then it's the survivors like being like, these men who have been brutalized, they are then taking the power back from their assaulters. I don't know why I brought that up, actually. I'm kind of uncomfortable now. But Deliverance is a really good book. The movie is fine, but I think more people like the movie than the book, but I really enjoyed the book. Okay, so as Joel is like comforting Ellie and trying to like bring her back to her senses almost, he calls her baby girl, which is the first time he's called her that. And he called Sarah baby girl in the first segment of the game. So we now know that like he is
full. We've gone there.
There's
full
been a
circle.
couple, and like I think I'm paying closer attention to this than like the game really cares about. But a few of his like fatherly like languages, because there's like at the very beginning of the game, Joel is getting home from work late at night. Sarah is asleep on the couch, right? And he's like, his word for her is scooch, for her to make some space on the couch. I want to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he and Ellie start getting on the horse, he's like, hey, scooch. And like he's used, it's just a very familiar. At this point in Joel's head, he's got a daughter, and now it's Ellie, and like he's using the same words, same language. He's being the same dad again, except to a different person.
Yeah, I think like the next 20-30 minute stretch is it's an interesting portrayal of like how far they've come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both through these little dialogues and the like monotony of the process of moving through spaces that starts happening.
Sure.
As like Ellie's a little down, like she's a little distracted. And first off, I want to talk about like her this is another one of those moments where I'm like, what is the world? Because she talks about having a dream about being in a plane crash.
Yeah.
And
She's
like,
never been. She's never seen a
concept
plane
of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, oh, cinema sins. She wouldn't know that. I'm like, how does she know what that is? I'm curious about that.
She has
like,
access to.
I want to know more about the world. You know,
she has access to we'll call it pre-war media. Still, she still has like she's seen Jurassic Park. She has like she still has access to media.
Yeah. Well, that's my question is like, has she?
Yes.
Is that canon at some point?
Yeah. In the quarantine zone, they have power. They have like there's TV still. Like
okay.
I mean, I don't think anyone's making new movies. I would love. Oh man,
that'd be so sick.
Somebody going out of their way to make a full-length feature film in a post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
I might have just given away a great idea.
Is that clarified in the DLC? I just remember like the opening of the DLC. We'll probably try to talk about it for a little bit at the end, but like I got the impression that the quarantine zone was like they've got books, they've got education, but I didn't think like power and access to media was a regular thing.
I think it's kind of like a special occasion type of thing where it's like we can power up the generators for movie night.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it. So yeah, but I know what you mean. Where it's like, and Ellie's even like, that's weird, right? Like I've never even been on a plane. Like why would I dream that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think you could dream it from just seeing some books or a movie once every 6 months or something.
But that was the end of the winter segment with Joel finding Ellie in the steakhouse, and thus begins the spring. And I mean, Ellie's traumatized. Like she's very distant. She's somber. She's like, Joel several times is like, hey, did you hear me? Like, we need to do this thing. And like, Ellie's just kind of like lost in her own world. And like, I mean, she has at this point, I mean, she's lost a lot of people. She's now like survived an SA.
Yeah.
And like, she's still going for it, you know? Like, I mean, it's just hard, you know, like you get caught up in you know, trauma is trauma's a funny little thing, isn't it? It's just like sometimes it's like completely hidden until a specific trigger comes, and sometimes it's just always there, and it's just like a weighted blanket that you can't shake off.
And I'll argue from here to the end. Never mind. I'll wait. We're gonna learn a little more soon. But yeah, I like this where it's like Joel kind of asks her, like, let's just do the alley-oop. We've done it a million times. She's like,
She's kind of like, I mean, right now her life is like the only meaning for her life is to help the Fireflies to find a cure. And that just hasn't worked every time they've tried. They go to one place where they're supposed to find them. All the Fireflies are dead. They go to the next place. All the Fireflies are dead. They go to the third place. Joel almost dies and all the Fireflies are dead. Are there any Fireflies left? Like she's losing hope, you know? And like, this is the part of her life where she's just like, what are we doing? Like, we got to keep going. And so Joel, on the other hand, he's seeming like spring is like his time. He's like optimistic. He's like, Ellie, I'm going to teach you how to play guitar and we're going to
about me.
He's got serious dad vibes.
Did we, in this walk up, when they're chatting, is that when he's like, man, days like this, I'd sit on my porch. And I was
on the sixth string.
As I was watching it, I was like, do not say pick on your sixth string.
And he says those words.
God dang it.
Well, he's what
my sixth string.
Is he Gen X? Like,
I guess he's supposed to be like a Gen X Texan.
Yeah.
Maybe they would say that.
Boy, I really wish you played the sequel.
We might do it eventually.
So, okay. The next thing that happens though, I would like to believe this is magic what they've done in this moment. They created a truly magical video game moment that I have not felt like an emotional pull at my heart the way that this game does with the giraffes. Like that, I don't know. I was like, wait, I've been conditioned by this game to expect the worst, and nothing bad happens. Where Ellie and Joel are walking through and they're trying to make their way to St. Mary's Hospital. And then Ellie's just like, holy shit, and like runs off. And you're like, uh-oh, what's going on? And like, as Joel, you're controlling Joel at this point. You're running after her and you're like, what? And then you see the giraffes. And like, you think about what these characters have gone through, what is lying in wait for them, and like everything that they've done to get to this moment. And then they just have like this is the brachiosaur moment from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Right? Where like Dr. Grant, he's got the kids and like all that shit happened. And then they just get to pet a brachiosaurus. And it's just this beautiful, like, hey, look, see, we just saw, here's, I think, what they're doing in terms of pacing for the story. We just went through the worst shit ever. And now
take a breather.
And now they're like, hey, look, the world's beautiful. There's still good in this world. There's still nature. Nature perseveres. Like, it's a beautiful moment. And I don't think I will ever feel that way again. The way that this game did this to me, I was like, I had to put the controller down and just like watch it happen. Because I'm just like, what's going to happen? When am I going to see this giraffe get decapitated? Like, what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, almost like, I mean, I'm very glad that I was wrong.
Giraffe get decapitated.
Like, that's what I expect.
Yeah, right.
That's what this game has done. Like,
I think I missed out on that feeling. I think partially I had this moment spoiled for me before I got there, and I kind of knew where I was at in the game. So when she runs off, she's like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "Oh, she's gonna go find the giraffe."
Oh man, I'm so glad.
Kind of ruined it for me.
I'm so glad I was surprised.
And then I don't like. I feel like. Because last time I talked about like how like when they saw the monkeys, they're like, "Oh, cool monkeys." Like their attitude about it like was a little odd. That I would have been like losing my mind. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And then like that this time they're losing their mind. I think it's awesome. Just kind of confused me a little, but I'm glad you got to experience it as intended. The funny thing is like I feel like it was also spoiled for me a little because like ours at Cincinnati Zoo, you just go and you can feed and pet a giraffe.
Yeah.
But like I get in their world why it's a big deal.
It's just like
but the thing I do like is what you're saying about the game does a good job with the visuals of showing you the beauty of things worth living for is always where natural light exists and nature has reclaimed things.
No roofs.
Whenever there's not a roof, those are like some of the safest, like most serene moments in the game.
Now, I didn't have the heart to try, but you can look at the giraffes through the scope of your rifle. I didn't want to find out. Campers, can you kill the giraffes?
No, it sucks.
Let us know. I'm genuinely interested, but I didn't want to do it. I also feel playing modern consoles that have an online connectivity that is like always communicating with something.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you try to kill the giraffe, PlayStation's going to be like,
put you on a list.
Noted. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Campers.
Well, you've got the disc copy. You don't have to play online.
But it's talking.
If you disconnect it, you could still probably play from discs.
I don't know.
Most. Yeah,
I got nothing to hide, man.
What's the weird thing? Like some games, it maybe around the time either that remake came out or the original came out, that is when like publishers started doing a thing where it's like, even though you bought the disc copy and it's mostly offline game, they'll require you to be online, and there was a bit of a stink about it.
I hate that shit.
And then people just accept it and expect it now.
Yeah, I really hate that shit. I live out in the country with like spotty Wi-Fi at times, and it's just like, don't punish me for no reason. I don't know. Anyway,
I can't think of specific games that have done that, but I know I've seen people sort of get mad for a minute about it and then get over it, unfortunately, because like, no, you should have a right to just own physical media and enjoy it on your own time without somebody else being able to find out about it.
Yeah. I think what this moment, the giraffe moment, like it's like such a beautiful moment that it's like almost out of place for this game. Where like I think a big point of the aesthetics and of the story of The Last of Us is you're wildly diving in between ultra violence and placid moments of natural beauty, and that's just like it's kind of like just like a metaphor for the way the world is. Where it's like sometimes things are great and you can't imagine them being bad.
Swinging the natural pendulum of life just to the extremes is kind of what this game's doing.
But
this is just a quick side note. We've been saying ultraviolence a lot, which for me originates from Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Just that's a fun little detail I just remembered. Anyway.
And I refer to sex as the old in-out. Me and me droogs in our Durango 90.
And then the next thing we have is
but
Joel and Ellie come upon the Fedra tents, right?
Yeah, I just want to finish one more thought on this giraffe moment. That's the end of Ellie's childhood. That's her last like good child moment in this game. Like where it's like she has been introduced to the horrors of adulthood, I guess. Where like the weight of the world is now on her. And it's been on her for a while because she thinks she's the
you think?
But like I think that's her last like moment of peace that this game offers her.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that moment was like it came so unexpectedly and it really messed with my like with what I expected of the game. I expected things to go poorly.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And I'm very grateful. And I felt like that was like just some brilliant, that was like lightning in a bottle. They don't get that again in the series. They try, they don't get it.
I feel like, if some of the things I disliked about the game were tweaked more to my taste and I hadn't spoiled it for me, I probably would have gotten that too. Like, I agree. It's a very effectively done little detail.
Yeah. The keyboard soundtrack reminded me of Balam Gardens from FF8.
Oh yeah, I was noting the like there's a lot of use of switching from like despondent slide guitar to moody Fender Rhodes from here on in the game. And that's like kind of the first moment I noticed it. It's like, ooh, yeah, these like moody chords on the Fender Rhodes.
Really good sound. It's
really
a
nice.
Reminiscent of the Twin Peaks soundtrack as well.
Yeah, which since David Lynch died recently, just there's tons of stuff about him coming through. And one thing I saw was like an Instagram reel of somebody interviewing his composer.
Badalamenti, I think.
Yeah, and he's like, I just had a Fender Rhodes, and I would sit here and just play stuff. And David would be like, do that. Now do this. That's it.
That's the right one.
Yeah, that's the right one. Don't touch a thing. Remember everything you did. And which made it kind of a nice thing to notice at this moment.
So back to Ellie and Joel. They're now at the Fedra HQ or whatever. It's like the triage.
Yeah, they call it a triage unit, and like Joel sort of explains, this is where I went right after my daughter died.
Yeah,
and I was in one of these and survived.
Yeah. Ellie uses this as an opportunity to talk about Sarah, and they actually have Joel doesn't say we don't do that. Like he actually like humors it, and they get to have a sincere conversation about Joel's past.
And she's poked this thing a couple times up to this point.
Yep.
And like to show us the relationship progression,
trust, and empathy, and hope, and a reservation of beauty.
Yeah.
And there's still a chance for Joel to recover from this wound that happened to him 20 years ago.
Yeah, and she re-offers the picture that was Tommy tried to give it to him originally.
Tommy tried to give it to him back in Jackson, and Joel's like, "I'm good, brother." but then Ellie stole the photo and then she gives it to Joel. Joel takes it. And he's
she
like,
knows better than him what he needs.
Yeah,
Is
and
the implication here.
I think Joel's worded was like, I guess you can't escape your past. And it's like, okay, Neil, we get it.
See what I did there?
Yeah, it's funny
See
to
my
see
trick?
in the photo. It's very funny to see Joel smiling.
Yeah,
You don't see that in this game.
sure don't.
This is not a smiling game. So Joel, I just called you Joel. Josh, have you like, did you do much of the melee weapon upgrades?
The melee? I don't think so.
So you can get like, what was the one that made zero sense? Okay, I got an axe, right? An axe is and the melee weapons have different levels of effectiveness. Some of them you can instant kill. Some of them you can like, bash, but it's going to take a few swings. When you upgrade the melee weapons, you're using binding. So you're using like duct tape and like old scissors to like add spikes to them. The axe and the machete, like, cause I upgraded everything just to see what they look like. The boards make sense. You're putting a fucking blade at the end of a board.
Yeah.
Now you got a spear or whatever. With the machete though, they put a scissor blade on the handle of the machete, and it makes no
in case
sense.
Somebody reaches your wrist before you've swung.
I'm just gonna say they didn't think it through that
you
well.
can keep them at, I don't know.
It just I made a note of it at this point for some reason because I was like, what the F, bro? It's a very silly it's like, and yeah, it makes your weapons way more powerful, but like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I kind of like, I don't want to spend too much time on like the remaining gameplay stuff.
there's
I
not
kind of
that
want
much.
to, well, I kind of want to like at least just lay it out, but I don't want to talk about like every detail. Is that like you have kind of like a final dungeon of infected and then a final dungeon of humans.
Yeah.
And note that the infected come first because man is truly the dangerous game.
greatest
villain. And it basically like walks you through and tests you of like every combination of everything that you've seen to this point.
Yeah.
I
love
how
this
to
segment.
navigate it.
I love this segment gameplay wise.
Yeah.
I
love that I was able to mostly stealth through it. I barely fought any of these
Same.
infected.
I love the stealth mechanics in this game. They're a little forgiving since you have certain enemies that are totally blind. Very forgiving, honestly. But it's really just that balance of you've got the runners who can see you, and if they see you, they'll alert the stronger blind enemies onto you.
I would just kind of like look at the field and go, if any of these guys find me, I'm screwed. So I'm just gonna sneak.
Yep. My method is I always look for the runners first. I take them out stealthily, and then I'll move on. What I like to do
honestly,
is to
like,
use the bricks or the bottles to draw the blind enemies all into one space, and then I just let loose with the Molotov cocktails and the nail bombs.
Yeah.
And you can just kill all of the big enemies in one fell swoop.
Yeah, it's interesting that when you're doing stealth, the runners, which are supposed to be like the least advanced of the infected, they're like the most dangerous.
They are the most dangerous, yeah.
Because they can see you and everybody else is like, just crawl, it's fine.
Yep.
So it's like you've got to be very careful around the runners if you're trying to sneak, and then everything else you can just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. But gameplay wise, like not much else is happening here. I mean, you're just you put it perfectly. You're doing a gauntlet of the infected and then a gauntlet of the bad people, the fireflies.
Well, and there's even like a final like collection of ladder puzzles that are just like so matter of fact, at this point.
So what's
like
going on?
You're truly like, okay, we just got to go through the motions of what we've done. And they make it like just 1 degree slightly more hidden about like how you've place things and find things, and
the least interesting part of the game. I really dislike the puzzles in The Last of Us.
They're like, I don't mind honestly how slow they are, like the actual motion of it.
Yeah.
Because I get it, like you're trying to develop the relationship by like making me actually interact with how they have to cooperate and trust each other.
Yeah.
It's the needle in the haystack component of it that would drive me crazy every time.
So we've been very kind to this game in terms of like praising its pacing and just like I mean, the characters and the story, they're a league of their own in a lot of ways. But anytime swimming becomes a part of the game, I'm like immediately just like, I hate this. I truly dislike the swimming segments. Okay, so what?
They're just
Joel and Ellie they're making their way through the subway toward the St. Mary's Hospital, and Ellie can't swim, so Joel's got to do a couple of extra steps to make sure that she can get to their destination without drowning. But then they're like they get incapacitated underwater. Ellie loses consciousness, and Joel's got like, you know, he has to like rescue her unconscious body from under the water, and then he gets captured by fireflies.
Well, I think like, and the scene is another one of those moments where I'm like, you're technically doing everything right in terms of like setup, payoff, pacing, like how the beats are playing out. But I don't know. It just feels so obvious of like, you've been telling me over and over and over again, she can't swim, she can't swim, she can't swim.
Right.
And then so that when we have this moment where it's like, Joel's alone underwater. And then you see Ellie try to save her. Ellie's trying to save him in the water. Ellie can't swim. And then of course Ellie gets swept away and is drowning. Like I've said this in past episodes. It just like everything that happens, I'm like, you did everything right to get here. It just feels extremely obvious.
Yeah, it does.
So it's not super interesting to me, but the more interesting stuff is about to happen.
Yes, exactly. So Joel's trying to do CPR on Ellie. A couple of fireflies that we find out they're fireflies. They're like, you know, they knock Joel unconscious and save Ellie. I mean, they save Ellie's life, but like, you know, at what cost? I don't know. So Joel wakes up after getting knocked in the head with the butt of a rifle, and look, it's Marlene from Act 1 of the show.
So we already knew this lady, right?
That's the Firefly lady.
So she was also making this journey across the country.
This is the woman who trusted Ellie in your care.
Okay.
She had the bullet wound at the very beginning, right after you kill Robert, the arms dealer. They're like, we need to find a Firefly. And Marlene's like, I'm the head of the Fireflies, and here I am.
I was just second guessing myself.
Yeah. So that's
my
Marlene.
Playthrough and my rewatch. I was like, wait, I know this lady, right?
And
why didn't she take Ellie?
She was dying.
She was wounded. Okay.
She had a gunshot, and she had to get help. And they didn't realize that he was going to have to take her across the country. They were just trying to take her to the fucking like Congress building or whatever.
Yeah. Sorry for the dumb questions.
No, it's okay, buddy.
So do we also assume she made all the same steps then of like she went to Colorado, they weren't there, and then she figured out they're in Utah?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer. I think like the Fireflies, we've been kind of like 10 steps behind, like 2 steps behind the Fireflies as they've gone along.
My question is like, is there a network of communication the Fireflies have?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel you, buddy. It's not.
We'll just keep going. It's not that important.
It's not the strong point of this series.
But
Joel,
actually, like to your point before though, of like they keep going places the Fireflies aren't there. But one of those secret collectibles is their like little pins
pendants
that they have been here.
Yes.
So like if you've been finding those, you're at least given some inkling of like maybe they're not totally burnt out.
Yes,
that
for
you're
sure.
finding a paper trail as you go. There's at least that.
That's right. That's right. So
and here's where I hate every last second of this game. From here on out.
So, walk us through what happens.
Okay. Joel wakes up and Marlene is like, we've taken Ellie for surgery, and they say that they've discovered like the cordyceps infection has mutated in her in a way that's immune, and if they can pull it out, then they can make a vaccine. Joel goes, but it attacks the brain. So I guess the logic leap is, because again, they're trying to show not tell, is he says that means they have to do brain surgery that will kill her.
Yeah. To
get a sample, and he goes hog wild dad mode and just starts murdering.
Yep.
So at this point, I think it's pretty clear. We've been introduced Like again, I try. I know you said last time, like I separate myself from like the writers, the developers, and I don't know. I just struggle to do that, especially with this game for some reason.
Yeah.
That like I just feel like them staring at me like, aha, you think the trolley problem's so easy. What if it was your own child?
Yeah,
and I'm just like, shut up! I'm never gonna be in this situation. It's not interesting.
Yeah. Well, you probably saw that, like, you know, Neil Druckmann said in interviews that, like, when he put out a poll of would you do what Joel is about to do, 100% parents said yes.
Right.
And it was like 50-50 on the non-parent side.
But like, it's just not interesting to me because it's so extreme. Like the amount of details of like dystopian insanity to put you into this trolley problem question are just so stupid that it's just like, it's not even interesting to me. Like that's my biggest grievance with it.
I adore this ending, Josh. I'm so excited to hear your grief about it, because this is like,
that's one of the main grievances I have.
I'm really glad you brought up the trolley problem, because that's such an obvious, like,
yeah,
you know, analogy for this, where like, okay, so end of the line is, in order to get a cure for the cordyceps infection, they're going to have to kill Ellie. Joel says, I don't think so. Like,
yeah. And
I've already lost one daughter. I'm not about to lose another one, especially if it can be like, if I could directly save her life, I'll never forgive myself if I can't, because he couldn't save Sarah's life. That was random chaos that killed Sarah. In this case, it is cool scientific collection that's killing Ellie. And Joel's just saying no. He's also saying, fuck humanity. I want what I want.
Yeah, which is an extremely reactionary point of view.
But it's relatable. I think so many people would rather kill everybody on the planet than to hurt or to lose a loved one.
Yeah, and what I will say, as somebody very openly, aggressively, quote unquote, of the left politically, I think this is something that people on my side or whatever like fail to understand about the other side.
That people will kill to protect their family.
Well, and you don't even have to say it that extremely. It's just like, well, their priority is what's immediately in front of them, their family. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. But we live in a world of media like this game that's like, just I think puts people on edge that they and their family are in more immediate danger than they really are.
What you mean? Yeah. There's this like false sense of urgency that is completely absent from reality.
And that's a really interesting perspective, again, from a guy who was raised in the colony state of Israel. That it's like, you know,
you found the little way to.
Oh, there's no place safe for Jews. I'm like, yeah, there is. It's called Brooklyn. Just go there. It's like this idea of like, oh, we're all in danger all the time, and we need to protect our own is like over propagandized in media, which is very funny when we're told like, oh, the liberal media's all lib. Like, no, it's not.
It's not.
It's like this. And like, man, there's so much other good stuff in this game, but at the end of the day, like, I just disagree wholeheartedly with the world and like message it wants me to take away.
Here's why I love it. I'll tell you why I love it is because I don't like Joel. I don't think he's a good person. I don't think he's a hero. I think he has just proven himself to be the most selfish man in the world.
Yeah, no, I agree
and I
with
love that. I love that. I've been playing as him, and I've been trying to keep him alive, and I want his best interests. But at the end of the day, he let me down.
Yeah. You know what? I think if that had happened in an hour and 45-minute movie instead of a 14-hour video game that I like spent time with, I probably would be more on your side. I think the amount of time I invested in this for it to go like just there's no hope to be had here made it more frustrating.
Now, I might have brought this up in our previous episode, but I want to double down on a suspicion I have about the cordyceps. So,
you think they're making everybody crazy like lead paint?
I think
like everybody has a little
no,
microdose.
I like that.
I could roll with that theory.
Well,
Anyway,
because
go ahead.
yeah, they're just getting like micro doses of the spores. No. My thought is that Ellie is the Trojan horse, where the cordyceps are trying to survive. That is what any biological directive is to ensure survival. And if they found a sneaky way to trick the humans into all taking something that is derived from a cordyceps, that being a cure from Ellie.
Go on.
Now,
fire Dr. Fauci. Put Bill Gates in jail.
Yeah. Well, for other purposes. Now, like, it's almost like the cordyceps are trying to establish less of a viral relationship with humanity and more of a symbiotic relationship, where if everybody gets a dose of Ellie's brain matter or whatever that has a specific mutation of the cordyceps virus, then that means that the virus has just found a way to completely inoculate the entire human race.
Yeah. So if they had either done that, in either scenario I'm thinking of, it's like you could put Ellie through, like, try to get a vaccine out of her and like let her survive. And I think there's way better ways you could have ended this. Like, your idea is good of like setting up like a sequel,
an intelligent design
and
of
like
the virus.
maybe even Joel like does this exact same thing, but show us that he learned that somewhere. Like somehow he knows that.
Yeah.
So that he actually is protecting humanity.
But he's not. He is just protecting.
And that'd be a totally different story. We'd have a very different conversation about this right now.
No, but we don't like that Joel did this. Like, at least that's my take, is that like the game doesn't want you to go, yay!
Right.
They're saying, like, the game is saying, like, oh boy, like there was a chance and Joel decided to sacrifice the well-being of the planet for his own happiness.
Yeah, which again, I think my frustration maybe comes down to like runtime and emotional investment.
Yeah,
I was asked to put into this for it to end that way.
So the final segment of the game, well, not the final segment, but this dash to the end is just a freaking massacre of the Firefly soldiers in the hospital as Joel's making his way to the surgery ward where they've got Ellie being prepped for her life-ending surgery.
Yeah, which like I got really frustrated because I kind of like enjoyed this dash through.
Yeah.
And then it is just like a few hallways and barrages of you could stealth a good chunk of the way, but mostly I think they want you to just be murdering waves of men because they give you an assault rifle in the last few rooms of the game.
Yeah. That would have been really helpful throughout the entire game, by the way.
Yeah, I died quite a bit. And then like I was saying how like I would have liked the game to end with Joel's dead on that rebar and Ellie has to survive alone.
Yeah.
Set up for the sequel.
Would have been great.
And like I liked like how abrupt that was. And like this ends almost as abruptly. There's no final boss.
Yeah.
It's literally once you open a door, and that's basic. Like after you run through a wave of guys, you open a door, and that's pretty much the end of the game. You're in a room with some doctors.
Yeah. And
they force you to make Joel do some horrible things.
You can kill the doctor with any of the weapons, and there's a specific animation for
interesting.
all of them. How did you kill the doctor?
I went through and because I was so mad that they were making me do this, I fought basically against the game.
Yeah.
And to the very end, I was like, no, I don't want to do this. This sucks. I hate this. It's so stupid. So I did taking the shiv from him. Because it's like, I know what's probably going to happen is he's going to stab him. But I was like, at least it's a shot that maybe he'll take it, tell them to stand down.
Yeah.
Like, I did not pull out any of my weapons. And then he just immediately stabs again. I'm like, fuck this shit. This is stupid.
Yeah.
And from then I'm like, this is stupid. This is stupid. I hate this. This is stupid.
I've been grappling with this because I don't know why. I think it's just like because I'm very principled in certain ways that I take the Hippocratic Oath very seriously. Like if you're, let's see. if you're a white mage, you're only casting cure. You're not ever attacking. And this doctor is first and foremost, this doctor is going to do surgery that will kill his patient knowingly without any attempt to save her life.
Well, again, utilitarianism, trolley problem.
Yes,
He's doing the most good for humanity.
Second,
this is just a subject to him.
The doctor wields his scalpel, which I feel is very symbolic in a way, because the scalpel can give and take, right?
Again, he's trying to defend humanity against a wild, just feral man who just stormed in.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway.
I feel like once he held the scalpel in a threatening manner, his credibility as a doctor is gone. And that makes me wonder, like, is he doing this for the greater good, or is he doing this for glory as a scientist? And like, cause he's not even seeing, like, I don't know. I'm probably
I don't know
missing
what else
a
he
point.
would do.
Yeah.
Cause again, it's like, if I'm in this world, in this scenario,
it's their last shot.
Like, I am taking the Fireflies at their word through all
Yeah.
this.
I'm trying to.
And he's like, oh my God, this person just barged in and is trying to destroy us, creating this vaccine that's going to save everyone in the world and restore humanity and restore society.
Yeah.
Like, and now he's pointing a gun at me. Like, yeah, I got the scalpel in my hand. Like, I didn't feel that at all. I had bigger concerns with, like, Joel.
Oh, by the way, the flamethrower, best way to kill a doctor.
I don't know if I ever. But like, Joel, we're supposed to believe is like, he wants to save Ellie. And if somebody is under an operating table and anesthesia, I'm not just going to pick them up and run. Like, and I get, like, we're at the end of the game, we got to move things along, but like, I would want to keep one of those doctors, like, alive so they can tell me what state she's in. How can I safely unplug her? Like, have you cut into her already? Like, what state is she in?
Yeah.
Like, this does not seem like a man who's thinking about protecting this girl.
I don't think Joel's very. I don't think he's thinking very clearly.
Well, yeah,
right now.
right.
He's seeing red right now. He's just like, he's just killed like 30 dudes.
Yeah, like, I think both of our, like, it's like our points about what happens in the surgery room is like, it's whatever. Like,
it's a little too soap opera.
We're being a little too overly critical about it, but like, I don't. It does raise some questions, for sure.
So Joel kills the head scientist, the last guy in the world who could probably figure out how to develop a vaccine, and takes to Ellie and escapes the hospital. Then we've got this scene with Marlene. Marlene apparently knew to find Joel in the parking garage at the hospital. I don't know why, it's serendipitous, but she's got Joel at gunpoint. Joel's holding Ellie. And she's basically like, I'll give you one more chance. Like, please just let us do this.
Yeah.
And Joel straight up just shoots Marlene.
Well, first, I just want to note the way Marlene is like, she's going to die soon anyway. And note, she says, how long before she's R-worded or murdered? We just assume she's a woman. Sexual violence will happen to her. It's just like, because that's what humanity would do if society broke down. It's
so
pessimistic.
What happens. It's what happens. There's no shortage of bad men in this world that will take any sign of vulnerability as an excuse to do the worst things. Like, there's just like, this is more of a discussion of like good and evil. There are inherently bad people who will do bad things. And there's not that many of them. I think there's a surprisingly larger amount of like neutral to good people who just are trying to get along and like not create chaos.
Well, I think it's like, it's interesting because I keep referring to like the reactionary politics of it, that we get just one more appeal of think of the worst violence happening to your daughter. Just one more, right? It tagged on the end.
I also have to wonder, like, how does the vaccine actually change the world at this point? Like, it's been 20 years. Like, there's like, okay, great. We've got a vaccine. So now the zombies, they can just rip us apart. Like, it doesn't change that much. Unless they were like, if we release this vaccine into the air, it'll, nullify all of the cordyceps. It's like, it's like an antibacteria.
Well, the thing is, those people being ripped apart won't turn into more of them.
That's true.
So eventually they will die off
Mhm.
within a couple. I don't know. It probably wouldn't take that long
The-
for all the cordyceps infected to die off.
I don't
if
know.
They're
I mean,
not creating new ones by
The
people.
bloaters are like the infected from like they've been isolated and they've just survived because they go into this like hibernation where they're a part of the fungus that's just like
Yeah, like the game could use just a few more details, I think, about how the cordyceps infection works and its longevity and how it spreads. Because it is otherwise ask you to like operate on blind faith that we are being reliable narrators at this point.
the other part about this segment of the game that I dislike is it only gives you one option, which is to kill the doctor. If
Yeah.
this was a Fallout game, you would have options. You would be able to decide what kind of person Joel is. Because right now, I mean, this is not a role-playing game. This is
No.
we always talk
It's a
about
movie
what Joel
simulator.
is doing, not what we're doing,
Yeah.
right? Because we're not thinking the same way that Joel's thinking. We're not living our lives in concurrent fashion with Joel's like ideologies.
Mhm.
Like, I love this game because it made me do something that I wouldn't do in a video game. I would not make the same
I
decision.
hated it because it made me do something I wouldn't do.
So Joel kills Marlene, steals a car,
Mm-hmm.
and takes Ellie on the road. They're headed back to Tommy's
Jackson
Jackson.
County
Yeah.
or whatever.
They're headed back to Jackson. I'm going to Jackson. And Ellie like comes to and she's just like, what's the deal? And Joel says like, oh, turns out like you're
Here's
not.
where I got
he's
real
like,
pissed off.
He's like, oh, turns out you're not special. Like there's dozens of people who are immune to the virus, and the Fireflies decided they're not going to look for a cure anymore, and that it can't be done.
yeah.
And Ellie's just like, okay, and like it's just like, it's just a bold lie, like a bald-faced lie. Is that the right word? Bald-faced lie.
Bold. I don't know. They both work.
Yeah. So Joel is lying to Ellie for her own good in his view.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, any relationship that has a lie for a foundation is doomed.
Yes. This is exactly my frustration with the rest of the game
Yes,
at this point. Is
'cause
that like
I don't want things to be perfect.
Well-
I love this the strife and conflict, and that these people are flawed, and that they're like their decisions are like having long lasting ramifications. And like the fact that this guy who just like has like a issue with like loss just changed the shift of humanity with his selfishness.
Yeah.
Like he's just a selfish boomer, or like, you know, like he didn't want his daughter to get taken away, even though it would ostensibly save millions of lives. I don't know how many lives are left at this point.
I mean, again, it's like this is the potential hinge point of like restoring civilized society. And he said, no, that's my daughter.
Yeah.
And now thinks he's going to maintain a healthy relationship with her by making her physically codependent on him for safety and lying to her. And like, again, if you want to tell a dark, gritty story, that's fine. But I'm going back to these documentaries I'm watching in 2013 when they made the game, and they're bragging to me about how this is a woke, libbed up story about female empowerment. And I'm like,
that's so
this
off the
little
mark.
girl is not empowered at the end of the game. Like, and they, like, I feel like they even show, like, she knows he's lying.
Yes. I'm so glad you see that. This is such good acting in a video game, because there's nuance. There's subtlety in her performance where you could say, does she get it? And like, you see that look in her eye, because the last segment of the game, right? Like, it's just like, it's like you think you're about to do another chapter. You're like, what the fuck is this? Like, how long is this game? And then you realize that it's just leading toward their approach to Jackson. Ellie stops Joel before they get there. She's like, okay, swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true. Joel takes a healthy pause. He's like, I swear. And then Ellie, she like sighs with like almost like not resentment, but like okay,
this is like telltale if you want to show a woman in an abusive relationship.
Gaslighting.
Being gaslit. This is what you would show.
Yeah.
And then you get on a documentary after you just finished making the game and go, we made this amazing story about female empowerment. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Way off on that one. This is about a toxic man. This is about a guy who was willing to sell out the world so he can get what he wants. And that is like, and Ellie is a victim. And she is now like, because I think another part is that like, as they're doing this walk, Joel starts talking about like, oh, you and Sarah would have been friends. Like, I think she would have really liked you. And it's just like, he is completely dissociating from reality at this point where he's like, he's just trying to, he's trying to relive the good old days. And like you never get those back. You can't make America great again. It was never great. It is only bad. Like you can delude yourself. You can take away the rights from people that like the way it used to be, if that makes you feel better. But like there is no good old
in his
day.
case, like if I can control this young woman, America's great again.
Yes. And like that's like where I'm like, are the game makers, are they that like daft? Like,
to be fair, again, it's 2013. That was like, lib-minded thinking was if we put a woman in game, then it's progressive. If we make a woman main character, then progressive. It's like, though, as deep as they thought about it, I'm sure. And we're here to say 2025, we are well past that point.
Yeah.
We understand nuance and subtlety in storytelling in games at this point. And what I want to talk about, like some of the last stuff she says when she sets up the DLC.
Yeah.
And it's like, I lost this person. I lost Riley. I lost this person. They maybe put it in there just so they can say this is the jumping off point for the DLC that's going to come out in a few months. But I take it that and like the way she introduces this chapter where she's like despondent. She's like, fuck all this. I just want to get to the Fireflies.
Yeah.
She has her little moment of like peace with the giraffes. I feel if she was conscious, would have been ready to sacrifice herself for humanity.
That's right. That's a part of what I love
Joel
about
took
this.
that from her.
Yes. This is not about a good guy who saved a girl and like kept her safe during the apocalypse. This is about a selfish guy who can't get over the past. Yeah. And he is willing to ruin everything just for his selfishness. I adore that. I like it when I find out the person I've been rooting for is a piece of shit.
Well, I was never rooting for him, so there's that. Yeah, I hate it. I don't. If they just maybe you throw one more wink and nod, because they've been so clearly staring at me, winking and nodding all the way.
Okay.
I feel like I need, if that's what you want us to take away from this, then like give me one more of those winks and nods that's a little more clear and not just, and then they lived happily ever after in Jackson. Like with her knowing that like he's a liar and whatever. It's weird.
I think the longevity of The Last of Us all hinges on the discussion of this final moment.
Of people wanting to see, like, does Joel ever have to reckon with this?
Yeah. Well, of making sense of Joel's decisions, I think is just like the most interesting part of it, because it's as a zombie movie, it's a pretty good zombie movie with all of the expected tropes that you get in a zombie movie, all the cliches. Oh, yeah. I got bit a couple minutes ago and I didn't tell nobody, and now I'm dying, and all of that stuff is there. We've seen that a million times. But zombie movies don't often deal with like a solution in that case. Usually a solution is 9mm between the eyes. But in this case, a solution is just like, oh, I just need to give up the thing that I love. Like, and nope. Like, it's like human greed. I think we were talking about this in the first episode. Like anytime like humanity is given a chance to redeem itself, greed always just ruins it. And this is just a continuation of those old days where it's not amassing wealth or resources or power or anything. It's just he's hoarding emotional security in like in a replacement method that's like he's not even seeing Ellie for who she is at this point because he's disrespecting everything that she fought for. She would have died.
When he wakes up with Marlene, like he tells her she fought like hell to get here.
Yes.
Like it seems like he has some clarity that like she's not doing this because she wants a surrogate dad. She's doing this because she wants to save people.
Yes. One of her wording when she's telling Joel about Riley and what happens in the DLC, she's like, you know, I wasn't alone when I got bit, right? Like, you know, my best friend was also with me, and something about like, you know, like they kind of were like juggling the decision of whether they should just kill themselves, or I think the wording was like, or we'll like be all poetic and lose our minds together. And so Ellie, as like a 13-year-old girl, was already expecting to die.
She's a much better reckoning with mortality and acceptance and grief than Joel does.
And
after 20 years of this bullshit.
Her wording is, I never lost my mind. I never turned, and I'm still waiting for my turn.
Yeah.
And like that,
to me, that's her saying, my turn just came up and you fucking took it from me.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Because Ellie was willing to die for this cause. If they were like, Ellie, I know that in the discourse of this game, like, I mean, most of the arguments arise about this end segment, and one of the excuses that I saw that people were bringing up as to like why Joel saved Ellie's life is because she didn't consent to the surgery. Like they didn't ask her; they just knocked her out, like without telling her that she was going to die.
That's like the pro Joel side of the argument.
Yeah.
No, she's been consenting all along the way by putting her body in danger over and over and over again to make it to this place.
But I see this in terms of like, okay, like a volcano is in the center of an island, and there's this tribe that lives in the shadow of the volcano, and they throw a young virgin into this volcano every monsoon season to make sure that they are protected. Ellie is that sacrificial virgin, right? She's being led to the volcano to be thrown in so that they can safeguard the tribe's future. And most of those virgins being thrown into the volcano, they think that they're making a difference. But in Ellie's case, like it seems like she actually would have made a difference, right? There is no God. There is no there is no divine
big difference
being
in this story versus those. Just fun side note. Metaphor Refantasio has a story like that. And then about like, oh, the religion sacrifices the young virgin princess or whatever for the dragon god. And spoiler alert, like she gets there and goes, oh, this is all bullshit. This was all a lie.
Yep.
And there's some very fun spoilery things about how she finds out, which is a lot of fun. And then she like walks away. Whereas this, like you're saying, this is different. This is like, no. This actually would save a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'm trying to take that at face value because the showrunners, whatever, Druckmann is not really giving much nuance in the telling of this story, in the sense of like of there being a shadow of a doubt as to whether or not the Fireflies would actually succeed, even though throughout this entire game they've just failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. Everywhere you go is a result of the Fireflies' failures.
Yeah.
And now they have this once in a lifetime opportunity, and you could say like that could be an argument to be like Joel just lost faith in the Fireflies because they can't get anything right. Nothing they've done has lasted or worked.
They just had bad bedside manner. But to wade into the DLC a little bit, I think to reinforce the point you're making here, we're shown a prequel world a little bit before the game, and Ellie has her friend Riley has joined the Fireflies. We're given more fodder for the idea that like the Fireflies really are the resistance, and the quarantine zone really is the dictatorial fascist whatever that is using the existence of the zombie bullshit as an excuse to like be authoritarian.
Yeah.
So like that gives us more reason to trust like the Fireflies were acting in good faith. Joel's an asshole.
Yeah. I love it. I don't know. I love that Joel's a bad person. I like that. I didn't feel betrayed. I didn't feel like my time had been wasted with this character development in the way that they treat Joel. I think it's more just that like I don't view Joel as like an avatar for myself in this world. Like I'm not making the same decisions Joel is.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I walked several miles in his shoes and did the things because he decided to do them, not because I decided to do them. It's an interesting take.
Yeah, maybe it's just like there's something about the video game format that turns me off to that style of storytelling. Because you are making me do it so much. I want to be a self-insert for a good guy. If you're going to make me spend this much time and I'm the one doing the ultra violence and the mean choices, it's like I want them to be. It could even be the game could be almost as mean as it is, and if you give me like the ways I was saying, like end it that like you get there and like, oh yeah, we just got to do the surgery, and then like the place gets attacked when she's under surgery or something. Like I'd be fine with that even, you know, like it's just like the idea of like, oh, this guy you've made me control this whole time is just a total piece of shit all the way down. Really makes me feel a little manipulated and cheated in the way that like when it's a movie that has a degree of separation, I or a book, I don't feel quite as like, oh fuck this, you know, and like annoyed by it.
Yeah, I
think the medium is maybe wrong for this tone of story for me.
It's in literature. I always appreciate when some pages are dedicated to the villain's perspective or the quote unquote villain, you know, the antagonist as it is, and I like that because everybody deserves a humanizing effort to like show where they're coming from. The Last of Us does that pretty well in terms of like, I don't feel like Joel is making any decisions that are out of character with him. I feel like it's consistent with who he has been this entire time, which is a victory in terms of like writing a believable character. What people I think you said this too, is like the fact that people have such strong aversion to what Joel does is because they were forced to do it. They have like, that's now on them, not on Joel. And like, it's just, that was a new experience for me as a video gamer. Cause it's not like, you know, you don't play Super Mario Brothers and go, gosh, I really hope Mario and Bowser make up at the end. And they then establish a new kingdom where, you know, that's the mushroom and turtle kingdom. And you know, it's not that. Like, I've never felt that way in a video game before, where I'm just like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Like, what did this game make me do? Yeah. It was very, very interesting. Is manipulative, is icky, and it's just right in time, like right in time for the next election.
Yeah. Maybe some of it is like, did we pick a bad time to play this? As like we are watching the worst people in the world do the worst things they can possibly imagine, and we don't need to dwell on that. But I can admit it maybe clouds my thinking, but I still stand by like in this medium, it's like I want to be the good guy usually.
Yeah. Me too. I did not shoot at the giraffe.
Yeah, for a good reason.
Because it's pretty.
Yeah. And
DLC.
Yeah, let's talk DLC for like, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but
it's not even that interesting to me. I didn't care for it as much as I thought I would, considering how much I love the main story of the game. Like I guess I feel protective of Ellie.
Yeah.
And
I liked getting to have a nice experience with Ellie. Mostly nice.
Here's the thing though. As Ellie's surrogate father in this relationship, I disapprove of Riley as a romantic partner. Riley's a bad influence and she's not a good person. I did not like Riley.
Like because she takes her into danger unnecessarily.
She's very manipulative. She puts herself in front of others every chance she gets. She's a very selfish person. She wants to join the Fireflies, but I think it's more because she wants to like live outside of the rule of the quarantine zone. She's just as fed up with the
it's like
dictatorship.
Yeah, how do you appeal to any 13-year-old to be a child soldier?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh yeah, you can be cool and rebellious.
You get them addicted to crocodile, I think, or something like that. But okay, so what happens? Ellie's she's in military school in the Boston quarantine zone. I think she's in Boston.
Yeah.
And Riley disappeared a couple of months previous, and she just shows up in Ellie's room on the DL. Like she's like staying out of sight of the soldiers. She is like espionaging her way back. And she takes Ellie to the mall where they have a fun little romp out,
Before the mall stuff, I want to talk about like this military school quarantine zone. Like the opening made me it just made me question, like, I don't know, like if the world really truly is this vicious and unsafe, like I think people would be willing to accept like that level of authoritarianism, because like we live in a world where all we did was lie to people and convince them it's very unsafe, and people are like, yeah, bring on the authoritarianism, keep me safe, like I was like, I don't know, given how like much, because I just played the game, I saw how horrible the world is outside of this. I'm like, doesn't seem that bad, like comparatively, that like, oh no, like you have to ration food. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like I think they needed to show me a power structure that like there's some abuse happening here.
Yeah.
That like they don't show. They just expect you to assume this is bad. And like this is worse than an alternative that like I haven't been shown really in any way.
Yeah, no, they do some work to show you how bad it is in the QZ at the very beginning of the game when Joel and Tess are walking through. Like you just see like soldiers like pulling people out of apartment buildings at gunpoint, and like you just see somebody get like summarily executed on site, like in the streets. And like the compulsive military service, I think, is a big part of it, where it's just like, I mean, I can think of a certain country that has compulsive military service.
Where they summarily execute people for fun in the street.
But live free or die hard, baby. Like I just think that like, we have a lot of freedom here in America, and you see how badly people react to being told what to do, even to like a minor degree 5 years ago. Like, you remember when they were like, you better not shut down Applebee's or I'm going to come to your...
For sure, yeah.
Like people are very touchy when it comes to like being told what to do.
Yeah. I think now like the problem again is this 20-year gap where they like expect you to project your extremely consumer-brained American freedoms onto this world.
Yeah.
And go like, I wouldn't live like that. And it's like, well, if you were born and raised in it, you probably would. You wouldn't know any different. Like you wouldn't know any different life. Yeah. Like that's why I'm thinking like, why would they be so rebellious at this point when it's actually that dangerous outside?
Because they're 13.
Yeah.
Like teenagers are so stupid. Like, I mean, like everything that they do is just because they were trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
Like, and like, that's so like.
No, I agree with that component.
Short-sighted.
Like, this little date they go on, but like this idea of like building a resistance and rebellion, and it's like I just want more of understanding of like how has this world evolved in 20 years, because it does seem to rely on like my American consumer brain of I wouldn't put up with that for a second,
Yeah. The DLC also has, it's like shifting between two times. It's from the end of autumn into winter. It's where Ellie is transporting Joel to that house that they're bunkered down in, and then she goes to a mall to get a medical kit.
Yeah, this part honestly, it just made me like more annoyed about how he survived, because it feels like they put it in there to show you, to show people like me who are like, he wouldn't have survived that. And they're like, she found a rusty 20-year-old medical kit and stitched him up. And I'm like, no. And like there wasn't much story to it. It just felt like they did it just to break up the date thing, because the date, the way they do it, they can't really put like action in there.
Right.
Much.
I mean, I love the segment in the sense of like seeing Ellie before she is forced to fight for her life every day.
Yeah.
Where she's just like a teenager who's just like,
the characterization's good.
Ellie's a great character. And like, I'm glad that the series is about her and not about Joel.
Yeah.
Because Ellie's got a lot going for her in terms of like strongest video game character. Like she's got a lot in her corner as like a very, very like beyond like award winning. Like this is a very good character.
I'll agree with you if The Last of Us Part 2 just starts with her just stabbing Joel in the chest. And be like, you liar! And now I'm free. Now I'm empowered.
You're gonna like the sequel. I really think you're going to like the sequel if you give it a chance. I don't know. Oh man,
I just want that to be the first scene.
It's so good, Josh.
Once my nightmares from this stop, I'll consider it.
But okay, so Ellie in post getting bit time, when she's going to go get the med kit for Joel, she goes to a mall where there's like a military helicopter there's a couple of like red herrings where she thinks she's found a med kit and then she hasn't. Got to keep looking around. And she deals with some hunters and some infected throughout. And it's just jumping back and forth from her date with Riley back to quote unquote real time, back to the flashback. I love like seeing this girl like smile, like just the same way it's weird to see Joel smile in that photo of him with Sarah. It's weird to see Ellie smile and like not like have blood all over her and like not like just like fighting for her life, or like that little moment where it's just like Riley. I mean, in her defense, like maybe I'm coming a little hard on Riley because like she's just like she introduced all of this chaos.
It's like the thing is like I feel like you're objectively correct in like a grand scale sense, but like in terms of what the game wants you to take away from it, I feel like the relationship works pretty well.
They're like, I can't imagine getting mad at this game for having a gay character. Like, if you feel that way, just turn your computer off. Just like go.
So the Tyler, the creator, tweet of like, what is cyberbullying? What are you talking about? Just turn the screen off. Walk away. It's like same thing with like woke DEI in my media. It's like, then turn it off. Yeah. Go watch something else.
Yeah. Make your own media.
Go watch the Taylor Sheridan universe. It's the most popular thing on television right now, and it's made for you. Go enjoy it. Stop being a little baby.
Yeah.
And like, and it's also funny because like I've talked about like at the core root, like the core principles of this video game are also extremely reactionary and conservative.
Yeah.
They threw in like some liberal identity politics window dressing on.
That's a good way of putting it.
Like lose their minds. But like, I don't know. I think it, and like, a lot of times you can also, as again, like somebody from like looking at media from like a left perspective, I often critique like when people do gay stories, it'll be like, oh, by the way, and also they're gay, just because they think they can move a few more like copies or tickets or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And in this, like, I don't know, there is something about the dynamic of two female friends in this environment that would be a little different if it was like a more masculine male character that Ellie's with. Because like you're just, I don't know, like you just be looking at it as like, oh, they're on a romantic date the whole time, instead of building this like will they, won't they tension over this short little date that you have.
It's a touching romance, like in the way where it's like, so Riley has found a carousel inside the mall, and she figured out how to turn the power on to the mall. And like that's her big reason for bringing Ellie out there. Where it's like in that sense where I'm like I actually love Riley for that because she is like she's like okay, Ellie it seems the life that Riley ran away from is the life that Ellie is living, which is like do what you're told, go where you're expected, don't speak up, don't cause any problems, do your work. And Riley's like, hey, I found something you'll never experience again, and it's a beautiful like relic of the world that we were born after. Where it's like they go into a photo booth. Oh my god, the arcade.
It's
game.
so funny, like the sort of interactivity they try to build into that, where like
you can make the funny faces.
Yeah, you pick I don't know 4 or 5 variables about like what their pictures will look like, and then it invites you to like save it to your PlayStation and share it with your friends on social media. It's a very 2013 feature to put into a game.
It's cute.
Yeah, I'm not doubting its cuteness. I'm just like, it's very much a relic of its time in terms of a game mechanic.
So, they're walking through the mall. There's that fun segment where you get to throw bricks at the car windows.
You gotta race to break a car.
It's just fun. I don't know. It reminded me of like the archery mini games in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
where it's just like, have fun with the mechanics with no stakes.
Yeah, I did like that.
Very cool. I really enjoyed that. Or the water gun fight. Like it's like, what are we doing here? We're just having fun. So Ellie and Riley, they find like a Halloween store, right? And I think this is right before like shit hits the fan. And the masks that they put on, I feel like this is like some meta storytelling. I believe, I know that they find like this like wall of masks, Halloween masks. The one that Ellie picks is the Wolf Man, which I thought was an interesting choice because you think about like the werewolf lore and like that's kind of like the next to vampires, like that's the modern zombie transmission where this other bites you, turns you into it. You get bit by a werewolf, you turn into a werewolf when the moon comes. Ellie gets bit by the werewolf of her reality, which is an infected. She doesn't turn. The moon never sets on Ellie. Yeah. And I just thought like that was a very intentional and clever like decision that they made. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it.
No, I was having a similar response of thinking about like, ooh, what does it mean? Like the characters they chose. I forget what Riley's was.
A witch, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I had some of the same thoughts about the werewolf choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. This idea of like, oh, a creature that turns under certain conditions, and Ellie, as in reality, as a character, is the opposite of that. I think there's something there, whether they intended it or not. Yeah. I think is interesting.
It's fun to extrapolate that type of stuff. Then what else happens? Honestly,
they do. I didn't like the Imagine a video game mini game much.
That was sweet, but yeah, it was a little cheesy.
And it's like one of those things where like it's referencing a moment in the main game.
Yes.
Where Ellie's like, oh, cool, angel knives. I don't know if she name drops Riley, but she's like, my friend told me about this. And so then it shows you the moment where that happened. It's very like the Han Solo movie showing how he did the Kessel Run.
I didn't see it. I gave up on Star Wars.
I think that might be the last one I saw. It sucks. It's like you start the movie and you go, oh no, it's going to be about how he did the Kessel Run. And it's like that is the magic of storytelling, is letting people imagine this abstract thing, not showing me every little piece of lore. And that's all this is. It's showing the moment her friend told her about angel knives. Yeah.
But it's also like, I mean,
it's inventive the way it's played out.
Honestly, here at Camp Video Games, like I'm terrified of a reality where I can't play video games. Like if the grid goes down, what do I do?
I've started thinking about you go full physical media, right? And I'm starting to think of ways to get away from streaming and like never owning stuff. I'm like starting to think like, okay, I want to pirate everything I care about and store it on my home server?
Yes, you do.
And like I'm starting to slowly work on that because like, yeah, this whole like you never own anything you buy is just it's
a fucking racket.
right.
Yeah.
So I get that idea of like I hate to have to imagine my favorite video game. I just downloaded a copy of Xenogears for my server yesterday.
Oh, sick.
I was
You
like,
mean you bought a legal copy and it's now in the basement?
right?
So Riley essentially like Dungeons and Dragons like this
Yeah.
video game for Ellie, and you know
Which I do feel like if shit hit the fan, I would absolutely do that. Like I would tell.
Let me tell you about the Legend of Zelda.
I would tell my little Chibis in my life the story of Xenogears beat for beat for beat, as if it was my own story I was writing.
and then Shinji went into the hotel room or the hospital room.
I like this. Like we make sure to make an Evangelion reference almost every episode.
Just the hospital scene.
Yes, that's most of the activities that they do. And then
the romance between Ellie and Riley, where it's like neither of them is like, oh, but since we love each other and we are romantically inclined, we should do this thing. There's never like they've never addressed that. They don't say that out loud, but at the very end of their quote unquote date, Ellie like in like a last like moment, she's just like, Riley, don't go. Yeah. Like it's really touching. It's like she's putting herself out there.
This is the only time the game made me cry. Was oh no, it wasn't that. It's the very end of this is what made me cry. Never mind. I'll hold it for
no. Go for it. I'm almost done.
Well, there's they have this moment and it becomes apparent throughout like, oh, this date is more romantic than friendly.
Yeah.
And so the kiss happens, and of course a zombie raid right when they kiss. After they run from the zombies, that's when we see the thing that Ellie told Joel about at the end of the game. My friend Riley and I, we got bit. We said, let's go out all poetic like or whatever. And when you see it happening in the moment, that was the part that like it made me cry. And I was just like, fuck this game, because I felt manipulated into it very deliberately. But because I was just like, it was like the one time I let myself reckon with like, what if this was reality?
Yeah.
You know? And I was just like, oh God. Like I actually did put myself in their shoes and thought like, that is what I would do. I'd be like, let's squeeze every last moment with the people I care about most, instead of be like, fuck it, shoot myself. You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I cried, but I was like, no, fuck you. You like
I'm not vulnerable. I don't.
Not that. It just like it didn't feel earned. I don't know.
They earned it, baby. They did it. They did all the work for it. They got you.
Yeah.
Are we done talking about The Last of Us?
Oh, for this week we are. Well, for the game we are. But we're going to talk about the HBO series for one more episode.
Yes. So I'm definitely gonna watch every episode, and we're gonna we're not gonna do what we did for our 13 episode series on the Legend of Zelda animated cartoon, where we talked about every episode in depth. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're gonna go, it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, you know, we could.
There's a lot to consider in the translation from video game to HBO series, especially with the amount of praise that the series has received from critical response. Like, okay, I'm willing to like say like, oh, yep, I'm ready to give it the full college try to watch this show. I'm going to watch it. I'm very excited for season 2, which is coming out in April of 2025. Which will cover the events of The Last of Us Part 2. And if maybe if I can just get you to watch the series, and then I'll tell you about the game, and I don't know. We'll get there when we get there, but
yeah. I was gonna add my 2 cents that like I'm not gonna watch the whole series. I will probably watch the first 3 episodes or so. Partially, I just respect my mental health and don't want to spend more time in this world of the game. But like I also, I don't know. I'm just gonna say this preface. Like if I have a negative opinion like about the show, it's not personal. I don't know. I just
so concerned about what other people think.
Not really. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but at the same time, I also think I used to think TV was going to be better than movies, like in the 2010s.
Yeah, once like prestige television announced itself, but then it overstayed its welcome.
And now, like, I feel like there's like people talk about like the enshittification of the internet, where it's like it's just like more slop than like meal at this point. And I feel like TV has gone that direction. That I very rarely watch new shows anymore.
Same.
And so like I'm going to do my best to block that out of my mind watching this, but like I don't have a high opinion of most television at this point.
Well, being a video game adaptation, it's got my full attention. That's the way my brain's shaped, where I'm like, oh, they did that, except I was in charge. Now let's see what happens when they're in charge.
Yeah, which is that is interesting. But like, I don't know. I just like I don't have faith in television anymore, and I'd like to be pleasantly surprised, but if it's the same. If the world's tone is as pessimistic as the games, like I might have a struggle, but I'm going to try and give it at least 3 episodes.
Yeah. Okay, campers. That is thus concludes the 4-part discussion on The Last of Us video game from 2013. If for some reason you didn't listen to those old episodes, what are you doing? Come on. Go listen to them. And like and subscribe. And tell an enemy about Camp Video Games. Tell someone you hate. Would tell them that I found the worst podcast and you should listen to it. I hate you.
Yeah, and then they'll listen to it because they're like, I hate that guy. I'm going to listen to this podcast. He said sucks.
Yeah.
And then you're going to find out that it's actually fun and good.
Turns out we're charming.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't know where I am right now.
All right. Oh, we'll come back and talk about the show next week.
All right. Next time here at Camp Video Games.
If you'd like to write to us, send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.